Today, I want to talk to you and prove to you on why college athletes deserve to be paid. Let me set the scene for you. It's April 7th of 2014. UConn men's basketball and Shabazz Napier, starting point guard, are playing for the national championship. Before the national championship game, the media comes up to Shabazz and asks him what his thoughts are on college athletes getting paid. He said to the media, and according to artshot.thinkprogress.org, we as student athletes get utilized for what we do so well. We are definitely best to get a scholarship to our universities, but at the end of the day, that doesn't cover everything. We do have hungry nights that we don't have enough money to get food, and sometimes money is needed. He continued on saying, to some credit, you feel like you want something in return. There are hungry nights that I go to bed and I am starving. So something can change. Something should change. Now, I believe that it is ridiculous like a guy like Shabazz Napier, who led his team all the way to a national championship, didn't have enough money to buy food sometimes. Have you ever dedicated so much to something where you didn't get enough back in return? Well, this is what is happening with college athletes. How many of you guys have watched a college sport? I predict that most everyone has watched a little bit of a college sport once in their lives. This is simply because college sports and the media coverage on college sports is a huge part of our culture today. College sports is $1 billion industry that generates revenue that usually goes back to the college. Think about $1 billion. What do these athletes get? The answer is little to nothing. Everyone in this situation is gaining on the back of the athletes. These athletes are risking it all for the love of the game, for their teammates, and for their school. They also barely have enough time to focus and get a bachelor's degree. And working a job to make money isn't an option because they don't have time. Everyone else seems to be getting more of their fair share. The fans are, the universities are, and the NCAA seems to be making out just fine. So let's look at the top 3 college football revenue programs for the 2018 and 2019 season. And I got these from footballscoop.com. At number 1, we have Texas with a revenue of $156 million. Number 2, we have Georgia with a revenue of $123 million. And number 3, we have Michigan with a revenue of $122 million. The amount of money that universities and NCAA are making off of their student athletes is eye-opening. The coaches are making millions of dollars also. According to bestcollege.com, University of Michigan has a $174 million deal with Nike. And Ohio State has a $252 million deal with Nike as well. This is just from clothing. The money that the colleges are making is money that goes back towards the university, which pays for professors, contracts, facility renovations, degree programs, academic and athletic scholarships. Now, I know some of those are very important, but there is still a lot of money that is left over. I know from personal experience that watching March Madness with my family is something that I really enjoy. Getting closer to them figuratively and literally. The bonding experience and friendly rivalry that sports brings us is truly amazing. There are a handful of payment methods available to professional athletes, but why not college athletes? It can't be that they don't bring in enough money, because I know that's not true. College athletes across all college sports in the 2018 to 2019 season brought in a revenue of $18.9 billion. Student athletes are a big part of universities' income. It is time they get paid for their hard work, contributions, and dedication. Let's look at some of the NCAA rules for college athletes. The number 1 rule is that NCAA rules states that college athletes must maintain amateur status while they are in college sports, and they must refrain from earning a salary or prize money for participating in athletics. Number 2 states that participating in practice, trials, or competition with a professional team is not allowed. Number 3 states that receiving benefits from an agent is also not allowed. Now I look at those on paper and they all seem very fine. But through their utilization by the NCAA, we can see the effects on the players. For example, let's look at the case of Perry Jones III. If you don't know who Perry Jones was, he was a power forward for the Baylor Bears in 2010. He had accumulated over $1,000 in debt while he was at Baylor, according to Baylor.edu. He asked his mom to pay off these bills, but his mom was going through a tough time too at that point and had to pay for medical bills instead. So what happened was somehow Jones's previous AAU high school coach got involved and said he'll pay for it since he had known him since 6th grade and he had pretty much been like a father to Jones. So he paid for the $1,000 and everything was okay. But once the NCAA found out, they suspended him for accepting payment while being a college athlete right before the NCAA tournament, and they had known about it for 2 months. Well, my question is, if he wasn't able to reach out and get money from someone else, how is he supposed to pay for it? Well, many of you guys would say he should just get a job, but let's look at his schedule. Players have to attend practices, participate in year-long workouts, maintain satisfactory grades, compete year-long in their sports. Their sport is their job. They are spending many, many hours a week perfecting and getting better at their craft so they can compete at the highest level for the university. And then 86% of college athletes are living below the poverty line, according to Drexel.edu. So a lot of times for these players, reaching out really isn't an option. The bottom line is that players need the financial support. Some of you guys may argue that a full athletic scholarship is enough. It covers tuition, room and board, and fees. But according to Business Insider, the average 4-year in-state tuition cost is $10,486, and out-of-state is $15,873. On average, room and board costs $11,510 per year. Now, for students who get full rides, they will get this covered, but not all student athletes get full rides. Playing college sports along with your academics is very, very difficult and time-consuming. There's no time for anything else in college. These athletes are risking their health not only for themselves, but for us, the university, the student body, and the fans. Now, what happens when they get hurt? Well, they could lose a scholarship, and then they would be left with nothing, no money in their savings account, and fall back on these injuries could affect them financially and their well-being for the rest of their lives. So what I think a college stipend would be the way to go. A salary of college athletes of $200 to $400 per month. College athletes will work their tails off, and this will only benefit the student athletes and show them appreciation. I can relate to this on a smaller scale. I have played high school sports for 4 years, doing cross country, tennis, and basketball. And I know it is very time consuming. But also, college athletics is even more stressful. There are higher expectations and they want you to be competing at the highest level and winning a lot of the times. Paying college athletes will help athletes and not hurt anyone else in the process. Thank you.